Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever really stopped to notice the weird paradox of the modern man? I mean, he spends practically his entire life chasing wealth, right? But ironically, he ends up completely ruled by financial anxiety. Like he's always tired, always glued to the market, basically just one unexpected bill away from a total panic attack. Well, in today's explainer, we're going to flip the script a bit. We're looking at a completely different, honestly ancient approach to true prosperity. See, there's this man in the Bible that most guys have actually never met, never even been introduced to. In just 10 short verses, specifically in Psalm 112, God sketches out this absolutely brilliant portrait of a truly financially healthy man. And hidden right there in the text, 7 distinct habits. These are the exact 7 habits that completely separate him from that perpetually anxious guy we just talked about.
Section 1. The Portrait of Wealth.
So that brings us to a really foundational question as we start exploring this whole framework, this idea that internal character actually creates external financial health. Who exactly is the Psalm 112 man? Take a second and just reflect on that. What does true, literally unshakable financial stability actually look like according to an ancient text? I can promise you for sure it is night and day different from whatever is being paraded around on the modern financial news networks today.
The absolute core of this portrait is super simple, but man is it profound. Quote, he is rich, but the money never owns him. Think about that. This is a guy who sleeps like a baby at night even when the economy is completely shaking. Why? Because he's busy building a lasting table for his kids to eat from long after he's gone. He doesn't frantically chase wealth. Wealth just naturally follows him. And honestly, that mindset sets up the crucial foundation for every single one of his habits.
Section 2. The generational vision.
Okay, so think of this generational vision as the root system of our entire framework here. Habit number 1 is simply this. He fears God way before he fears the market. But, and this is a big but, it's not some terrified, reluctant, forced obedience. No, it's actually delighting in God's commands over whatever the market is doing. That right there, that's the true root of financial health. Because look, while other guys are bowing down to the terrifying fear of poverty or, letting every little dip in the economy completely steal their sleep, this man bows only to God. And that single, foundational decision literally sets him totally free from all those other financial fears that rule basically everybody else. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sharp contrast we see here. On one hand, we've got spending like an orphan. This is where a person acts like the money ends with them. Like tomorrow is the absolute farthest horizon they can even imagine. But compare that to habit number 2, spending like a patriarch. The Psalm 112 man, he definitely doesn't spend like an orphan. He spends like a patriarch. He's actively building a table for his grandchildren. He's purposefully saving way past his own lifetime. So I got to challenge you as we look at this. Are you looking past your own immediate comfort to build an inheritance for 2 full generations ahead? It's a total game changer.
Moving on to Section 3. Character under pressure.
If that last section was the root system, think of this part as the sturdy trunk of the framework, bringing together habits 3 and 6. Look, there's a really profound truth we just have to face here. Wealth isn't just a tool, it's actually a mirror. And let me tell you, it can be a pretty cruel mirror. When sudden prosperity hits, money basically drags whatever is hiding deep inside a man straight out into the light. If there was some hidden pride in there, money just amplifies it and makes the guy totally unbearable. If there was a streak of cruelty, money essentially just hands it a giant microphone. Seriously, wealth is the ultimate test of character.
So, how does our guy actually pass this test? Well, he develops a soft heart and a strong hand. And that brings us to habit 3. See, most men get incredibly hard when they strike it rich. You know the type. They stop returning calls, they get super short with people, they kind of start looking down on anyone who's struggling. But the Psalm 112 man, he gets resources and, amazingly, he actually grows softer. Because his roots go deep into God, he's incredibly gracious to the guy working for him. He's merciful to the brother who owes him a debt. And he is completely righteous with his suppliers, even when he could totally get away with cheating them.
So the crucial point is this. The economy takes a massive dip, but his heart, it doesn't move an inch. And that leads right into habit 6. This is a guy whose emotional state is not tied by some invisible string to a wildly fluctuating portfolio screen on his phone. When the news headlines are absolutely screaming about a crisis, or, his business suddenly loses a major client, his heart just stays exactly where it is, grounded. We like to call this the steady heart. Basically, it means anchoring your internal emotional state to the Lord, rather than the roller coaster of the market. And just look at what that prevents. It completely stops panic decisions driven by raw fear. Because make no mistake, fear is literally the most expensive habit in finance.
It's exactly what causes guys to panic sell at the absolute bottom of the market, or just blindly hoard their cash under a mattress instead of actually building something with it. But a steady heart, it sees clearly, it acts wisely, and that puts this man in a completely different, wildly better place a decade down the line.
Section 4. Generosity and Shrewdness.
All right, so these are the branches of our framework, right? This shows how wealth is actually applied wisely out there in the real world. Habit 4 is what we call the open hand strategy. Now, keeping an open hand doesn't just mean haphazardly throwing money at every single problem and accidentally making people lazy. No way. It means, number 1, give, but only when giving actually dignifies the person. Number 2, lend, but only when lending legitimately strengthens a brother so he can finally stand on his own 2 feet. And number 3, generously share opportunities that lift a brother up. The Psalm 112 man acts like this beautifully generous river. Resources and opportunities just naturally flow right through him to help someone further downstream.
But don't get it twisted, he absolutely is not naive. For habit 5, just think about how guys usually fall into one of 2 camps. You've got the generous but totally naive guy on one side, and then the shrewd but super stingy guy on the other. But the Psalm 112 balance? It's about holding both traits in the exact same hand. He's wide open to his brothers, but completely closed off to fools. Listen, God is not offended by your strategic wisdom. This man conducts his business affairs with real justice and sharp discretion. I mean, he actually reads the fine print before he signs a contract, you know? He plans, he thinks critically. He literally holds holiness and shrewdness together at the exact same time.
Which brings us to Section 5, the ultimate blueprint.
And here we arrive at the fruit of the framework. Habit 7 is beautifully defined by this incredibly powerful statement: he gives where nothing comes back. Man, this is the one. This is what truly, fundamentally sets him apart from pretty much every other wealthy guy you might know. He gives directly to the poor. We're talking about people who absolutely cannot repay him. They can't hook him up with a business deal over dinner. They can't publicly applaud him on social media. Nothing. And this brilliantly illustrates the core difference here. See, so much of modern giving is really just a quiet exchange. You plant a seed just so you can harvest a bigger blessing later. Or you give purely for platform recognition and a round of applause. Compare that transactional mindset with true generosity. True generosity gives to the poor and expects absolutely zero in return. Zero. Why? Because he's motivated simply by the crazy fact that God has already been unreasonably good to him. Look, his money and his business, they'll eventually fade away. But his righteous character, that true selfless generosity, that stuff literally endures forever.
So remember this, Psalm 112 is not a buffet, it is a portrait. You can't just stroll by, pick the 3 habits you happen to like, and totally skip the other 4. No, they form a complete, cohesive blueprint of a whole man. And hey, listen to me. If you're sitting there feeling this massive, intimidating gap right now between where you currently are and this beautiful portrait, treat that gap as a map. Treat it as an invitation, definitely not a judgment. God is just waiting for his sons to actually become the kind of men who can carry heavy prosperity without letting it completely destroy them. So I want to leave you with this one final provocative question. Which habit are you going to start with today? Just look back over the 7 we've quickly covered: fearing God, having that generational vision, maintaining a soft heart, keeping an open hand, developing a wise mind, guarding a steady chest, and finally, giving where absolutely nothing comes back. Just pick one. Seriously.